What is up, guys? TopTierYugioh here, and today I've got some Dogmatika Zoodiac combos for you guys. And before getting into it, I've just got to say that these combos are absolutely incredible, and if they resolve, you're probably going to be winning the game because the main combo that this deck does allows you to end on a board of Drident, Ecclesia, Maximus, and then a copy of Shaddoll Winda, which will be summoned by Shaddoll Schism, on top of which you're going to have a copy of Fleurdelis in your hand as well. And of course the Drident's going to be having material, by the way, but this means that your opponent has 3 different things to deal with, and if they don't, you're going to be able to just change everything into attack and go for game on your next turn, because this is going to be over 9,000 points of damage, which is, again, absolutely insane. But on top of that, that isn't all that this deck can do. You can also make the same board but with a copy of Megaclops instead of the Drident, which will give you less disruption, but you'll have a board that's generally more threatening, more imposing, because you have another monster that's just really difficult to deal with. And so this board is going to be very tough to beat, and in most cases it's an auto win. But if you don't like playing the Winda or the Maximus or the Shaddoll engine, you could also just search a copy of Punishment instead, which is one of the best cards from Rise of the Duelist and one of the best traps we've seen in a long time. And so you have so many options in this deck, so many different plays, and I'm going to show you exactly how to use them in this combo video. But if you would also like to see a deck list or a deck profile, please check out the deck profile that I posted on the channel just yesterday. A link to that will be in the top right corner of the screen in the YouTube cards, as well as in the description as well. And if you would like to support the channel, please consider doing so by liking this video and subscribing, because I do upload 1 to 2 times per week, and subscribing makes sure that these uploads are going to be hitting your subscription feed. But if you would also like to be notified, which I would really appreciate, feel free to click that bell as well, because that's going to make sure that YouTube sends you a notification every single time I upload. I promise you won't be disappointed, but let's go ahead and get into these combos. Alright, so for this first combo, this is going to be the main combo of the deck. For this, all we're going to need is 1 copy of Nadir's Servant, and then 1 copy of either Tinky or a Rat. And Tinky can obviously search the Rat, and so either one's going to work, but for the sake of this combo, we're just going to be using a Rat. And so in most of these combos, because the Dogmatika engine is going to lock you out of the extra deck, you almost always are going to be making your zoo plays first. And so in this combo, what we're going to be doing is obviously starting by normal summoning Rat and then activating the effect. And for Rat's effect, you have a couple of different options that you can send. You can send either Bunny Blast if you want to set up a follow-up play, Ram if you want to, combo extra hard, Whiptail if you just want to get it going if you're playing against the matchup to where it's going to be important, such as Invoked or Eldritch, where banishing those Lords and Alistairs can maybe become huge. You can go ahead and set that up early, or you can set up a combo and maybe a grindier matchup. And so you have a couple of different options, but for the sake of this combo, I'm going to be dumping a Bunny Blast to set up a follow-up play. And so we're going to start once again by normal summoning Rat, activating the effect to dump Bunny Blast to the graveyard. Next, we're going to go into some more zoo plays, and we're going to start by special summoning a copy of Shockanine. Next, we're going to activate Shockanine's effect, detaching the Rat to special summon Bunny Blast. Next, we're going to summon Hammer Kong and then Drident. Now we're going to activate Drident's effect, detaching Hammer Kong. Actually, no, detach Shockanine. Then we're going to use that to destroy the Bunny Blast. Now we can activate Bunny Blast effect in the graveyard to add back Rat to our hand. So again, this is going to give us a follow-up for the next turn. But that's not all we're going to be doing, because we do also have some Dogmatika plays to make. So from here, we're going to start by activating our copy of Nadir's Servant. And so we're going to use Servant to dump App Cologne to the graveyard to search a copy of Ecclesia. And so then from here, App Cologne's effect is going to trigger in the graveyard, and we can use that to search a copy of Shaddoll Schism from deck to hand and then discard it. And so in hand, we have Ecclesia, Rat, and then this is our graveyard right now. So from here, since we have an extra deck monster on the board, we can special summon our copy of Ecclesia and activate the effect to search a copy of Maximus to our hand. Now we can summon Maximus by banishing our copy of Shockanine. So let's just try to make space for everything. I'll put these in attack just to have more space, but you can obviously summon them in defense. That's probably going to be better since Ecclesia can't be destroyed by extra deck monsters and Maximus has 3000 defense. So summon them in defense. I'm just doing this in attack to make space for everything in the frame. So this is the board right now. What we can do from here is activate Maximus's effect. Each player will send 2 cards from their extra deck to the graveyard. We're going to be sending copies of Shaddoll Construct and Titanclad the Ash Dragon. So when they hit the graveyard, Construct's effect's going to trigger. to add back our copy of Shaddoll Schism. Titanclad's effect will activate in the end phase. And so from here, our board is Drident, Ecclesia, Maximus. Our hand is Rat plus Schism. And so from here, we would just set our copy of Schism and then end turn. And during the end phase, we're going to be able to activate our Titanclad's effect, and we can use this to search a copy of Fleurdelis to our hand. And so we're going to be ending with, again, Drident, Ecclesia, Maximus on board, Schism set on the field, Rat plus Fleurdelis in hand. So our opponent's going to have to deal with these three forms of interruption. And then on the opponent's turn, we're going to be able to activate our Schism, and we can use that to banish, like, we get confused from the graveyard. And so we're going to be summoning a Winda. We can use either Construct and Titanclad or Construct App Clone, really any combination of these three monsters. We can banish two of them in order to summon a copy of Winda. And what you want to do here is summon the Winda in the extra monster zone. That's going to give you more space on your board next turn. So, well, we can't really see it up there. Let's see. Make some more space. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so this is extra monster zone, main monster zone, field, and then again we have the Rat and the Fleurdelis in the hand. And so this is going to be a board that a lot of decks are going to have trouble dealing with, mostly due to the Winda, but also obviously having the Drident and the Fleurdelis as interruptions. Then if the opponent cannot clear your board, you can just go for game on the next turn. And so for that, what you would end up doing is normal summoning your copy of Rat. And also, you do want to keep in mind that because Winda was summoned by Schism, it's not going to be able to attack directly, so you got to put some more damage on board. That's why it's important to search that follow-up play if you need to. And so we can summon Rat, and then just dump a monster to the grave that has decent attack, like a Whiptail maybe. And then we can go into a copy of Tiger Mortar, and then we can either attach the Whiptail to itself, or we can equip it to the Drident, however we want to do it. But we would do that, put some more damage on board, and then summon out the Fleurdelis, and then this is going to be game, because Fleurdelis is going to boost all your Dogma monsters by 500, so this is going to be 3,000, 2,000, 2,000, so that's 7,000 total. You add the Whiptail's attack, and that's going to be 8,200. So this would also work with a Thoroughblade as well. If your opponent has a monster, you can use Winda to attack over it to clear the way for your other monsters to attack directly, and if they have a monster in attack, then at least Winda will be able to do more damage over that as well. Plus, if they have a monster in attack, you could also use Drident to pop it. So you're gonna probably have game next turn regardless. Just keep in mind how you want to do it. Also, Winda. You don't want Winda to keep you out from summoning your Fleurdelis as well. And so, if possible, you can also summon Fleurdelis on your opponent's turn. So they're pretty much ending their turn during their main phase, summon out Fleurdelis, and then on your turn, you normal Rat, make Tiger Mortar. But you won't be able to make both Tiger Mortar and Fleurdelis on your turn in the same turn pretty much because of the Winda. So keep that in mind, but you're definitely going to be able to OTK for sure. And so that is pretty much the first combo. But next, I want to show you a slight variation on that, which is going to allow us to summon Megaclops instead. So for this version of the combo, it starts off exactly the same. We need the same two cards to start with. We start by normal summoning the Rat, but the difference is right here. And so instead of sending Bunny Blast to set up that follow-up play, here we're actually going to be sending Ram to the graveyard. And so from there, we are going to summon Shaka9, activate Shaka9's effect, detaching Rat to revive the Ram. Now we're going to be able to summon our Drident, activate Drident's effect to pop the Ram. And now Ram is going to be able to activate the effect in the graveyard since it was destroyed by a card effect to special summon Shaka9 from the grave. Now from here we can summon a Tiger Mortar and use Tiger Mortar to put more material under the Shaka9. And now we can activate Shaka9's effect to revive our copy of Drident. So from here we have three different extra deck monsters on the board. So we're going to be able to link all three of these away into a copy of Megaclops. And so that's pretty much how we get Megaclops on board. From here the combos are pretty much the same, or this particular play is the same. So we would activate Servant, use Servant to dump a copy of App Cologne to the graveyard to search a copy of Ecclesia. Then, of course, App Clone's effect will trigger. We're going to search a copy of Schism, discard that to the graveyard. Now we can special summon our copy of Ecclesia, activating the effect to search a copy of Maximus. Special summon the Maximus by banishing one of our extra deck monsters in the grave. I think here either Tiger Mortar or Shaka9 is going to be good. Really what you want to do is banish the cards that you have multiples of. And so in this case, we only have one Drident, but we have multiple Tiger Mortars probably, and multiple Shotgunines probably. So one of these would be fine to banish. You could also banish the Apkallone, since we're going to be dumping another Shaddoll monster anyways with the Maximus. But I think that's kind of risky in case your Maximus gets hit with some type of disruption. So I usually like to just banish the Shotgunine. There's no harm, no foul there. Only thing that will kind of suck if you need to resolve a combo later. But we at least already have 4 engraved, so that'd be fine anyways. So we'd summon our Maximus, activate the effect, using that to, of course, send our Construct and our Titanclad to the graveyard. Construct's effect will trigger, allowing us to add back the Schism. And so this would be pretty much the board. Then in the end phase, Titanclad will trigger, allowing us to search our copy of Fleurdelis. On the opponent's turn, we activate the Schism, and we can use that to summon our Winda. And so this is how we would end up with Winda, Megaclops, Ecclesia, Maximus, and then Fleurdelis in hand. And so on the next turn, if we wanted to just go for game, then again we change everything to attack, summon out the Fleurdelis, and this is game. Because we would have 7,000 right here, and then 4,000. And so easily game for sure. And so that's pretty much it for this first combo. Once again, if you don't want to play Maximus and or Shaddoll engine, what you would end up doing instead is just searching, instead of the Maximus, you would search a copy of Punishment. And then in the end phase, you would still get the Fleurdelis to your hand, and then you would just have Ecclesia, Megaclops, Punishment for disruption, and then you would have the Fleurdelis for another form of disruption. So you have 2 forms of disruption and a monster that's very difficult for a lot of decks to deal with. And now another thing that I want to mention about this play is that Punishment's going to lock you out of the extra deck until the end of your next turn. So pretty much 2 turns without being able to summon from the extra deck, and that's huge. However, because we already have a lot of our Xyz monsters in the graveyard, Megaclops can still summon them from the graveyard. And so even though we can't summon from the extra deck, we can summon from the graveyard. And so here I actually do think it'd be kind of good to banish the Apkallone. We're not playing Maximus in this play anyways. And so yeah, so that's completely fine. And then on the next turn, what you could end up doing is using Megaclops' effect, revive a Drident, and then equip something to it, and you end up with a live Drident. And so if you're not able to go for game, that is, you're still going to be able to set up your board even further, even though you're not going to be able to summon from the extra deck. And so that condition isn't going to hurt us that badly because of Megaclops. And so again, I think this is a really powerful board. Even if you're not playing Maximus, even if you're not playing a Shaddoll engine, this deck is still able to do a lot with that hand. But in this next combo, I'm going to show you what we can do without drawing Nadir Servant, because as you can see, Nadir Servant really sets up a lot, and it's a really powerful card. And again, I think it's one of the best cards out of Rise of the Duelist, if not the best card. But now let's look at what we can do without it. Alright, so for this next combo, we're going to be using Ecclesia plus Rat. And it is going to be a very similar play, but there are a couple of key differences since we don't have Nadir Servant. But we'll get into that once we get into the plays, which we can go ahead and start doing now instead of talking about it. So, of course, we're going to start by normal summoning the Rat, activating the effect. And once again, we're going to have the option between sending any of our zoo cards like Whiptail, Bunny Blast, Ram Ram, or combo or whatever. But again, for the sake of the combo, I'm just going to use a Bunny Blast. And so normal summon a Rat, use the effect, dump Bunny Blast to the graveyard. Same play starting off pretty much. Activate your, or summon your Shotgunine, activate the effect to revive the Bunny Blast. Summon your Drident, use Drident's effect to destroy Bunny Blast. Bunny Blast's effect to add Rat back to your hand, giving us the follow-up play, setting up the graveyard for the Shotgunine. Oh, wait a minute. Also, you want to summon a Hammer Kong so your Rat has material. So, you guys know how to do this. From here, what we're going to be doing is, instead of activating the Nadir Servant, we're just going to be special summoning the Ecclesia right here. And then activating Ecclesia's effect to search a copy of Maximus. Now we can summon the Maximus. I'm going to put these in attack once again to conserve space. Summon the Maximus and activate the effect. And now in the other play, we're going to be... In the other play, we normally would be dumping Construct and Titanclad here. But in this case, since we didn't have the ability to send Apkallone yet, we're going to have to send Apkallone for sure. And so here we're going to be sending Apkallone and Titanclad. So these are going to be what we're sending to the grave with Maximus. Then from here we activate our Apkallone's effect, using that to search a copy of Shaddoll Schism, and then we're actually going to have to discard another card in our hand. And so if we only had Schism and Rat in hand, we'd have to discard, the Rat obviously, but because, this is a starting hand, so we're gonna have other cards that we can discard. Just discard one of your other 3 cards and then keep both of these. That's gonna be probably the best play. So we will have to discard for Apkallon's effect, so keep that in mind. But then from here, it's pretty much the exact same. And so once again, we would set the Schism. In the end phase, we'd be able to search Fleurdelis, and then we'd have Drident, Ecclesia, Maximus, Schism, which would be able to get us to our copy of Winda, and then we would also have Fleurdelis in hand, Rat as a follow-up. So the exact same play, pretty much. We're able to do it without Nadir's Servant. The only difference is that we need another card to discard for our Apkallon's effect. And so pretty much the exact same play. So as you guys can see, that combo is pretty much exactly the same. The only difference is that you need another card in your hand to discard for Apkallon. And if you want to go for Megaclops, you can make the same adjustments as well by just dumping Ram with Rat instead of Bunny Blast. And so this really makes these combos extremely consistent because you can play 3 copies of Servant, 3 copies of Ecclesia, 3 copies of Tinky, and of course Rat's limited, but that means you have pretty much 6 copies of this, 4 copies of this in your deck, making it very easy and consistent to go into, especially when playing cards like Pot of Desires or Triple Tack or Upstart that are going to help you draw into your deck. And now, instead of having this, you could also have a copy of Thoroughblade plus Ram. That also works. So really, you just need, or really Thoroughblade plus Bunny Blast too. That's the exact same thing. And so really Thoroughblade works too. And so you have so many different combinations of cards that make these combos work that really, again, make this more consistent. But in this next combo, I want to show you what happens if we don't have Rat or we don't have Thoroughblade plus another monster. So how does this combo work if we're unable to get stuff into the graveyard? Alright, so for this combo, once again, I'm going to show you how everything works out if we don't have Rat or any other way to put a zoo monster into the graveyard. Because without that, it's going to be very difficult to set up your Maximus because you need something to banish to use the effect. And you obviously don't want to be banishing your Shaddoll stuff early on because you need that to resolve your plays. And so let's look at if we had, like, I don't know, let's say Servant plus Thoroughblader plus Barrage. Start with Barrage. No, Barrage will just summon Thoroughblade. So Servant plus Thoroughblade. Let's see how this works out. And so once again, we're going to be starting with the zoo plays. And so we start by just normal summoning whatever zoo monster we have. And then from there, going up into a Drident. And you can summon as many as your extra deck monsters as you want. It doesn't really matter in this case. Just make sure you have something that you wouldn't mind banishing. And so once again, I would go with something in multiples like a Shaka 9. So Thoroughblade, Hammer Kong, Shaka 9, and then Drident. So from here, this is pretty much all we can do for our zoo cards. And so we go ahead and activate our Nadir Servant, using that to search a copy of Ecclesia, and then dumping a copy of Apkallon. So Apkallon would go to the graveyard, and then we would activate Apkallon's effect to search a copy of Schism, and then discard Schism to the graveyard. Now we can special summon the Ecclesia, and then use Ecclesia's effect to search a copy of Maximus. And so I guess here we could banish the Apkallon to summon the Maximus, but once again, then it becomes tricky to end up summoning your Winda because you need a Shaddoll monster in the graveyard for that. And sure, we can dump Construct, but you could actually just not play Construct and discard other cards from your hand in all of these combos. And so if you're not playing Construct, then you wouldn't be able to banish the Apkallon here, which would make this play not work. So I guess it depends on your deck, but in this deck in particular, we're able to not need to do this, but in some decks you might have to. And so what I'm talking about is, or what you would do from here, is you could always just use your Drident to destroy your copy of Ecclesia. So you could detach, again, something you wouldn't mind banishing, pop the Ecclesia, and now you have a monster that you can banish from the graveyard in order to summon your Maximus. So from here you could summon your Maximus, activate the effect, and then from here it would be exactly the same. You could dump your, in this case, Construct and Titanclad, and that sets up for your Shaddoll's plays later on. But again, if you're not playing Construct, what you could also do is dump your Titanclad still, of course, but then you can also dump a copy of Omega. Then you can use Omega's effect in the graveyard to maybe shuffle back your Drident to again help you play on the next turn, or shuffle back really anything that you want back into the deck, or maybe you want to use it to disrupt your opponent. You have a couple of different plays that you can make with an Omega in the grave, and so this would be what you could send if you're not playing Construct. And then from here, what you would do is, again, if you're not playing Construct and you don't discard the Schism, you discard something else, then you would set the Schism. and then on the opponent's turn, or I'm sorry, during their end phase, you would search Fleurdelis with your Titanclad, and you would end up with this board. And on the opponent's turn, you could banish the App Cologne and the Titanclad. That's going to give you access to the Winda, and then this would be your board. And so once again, this is kind of tricky in this deck because we are playing Construct, and I've already showed that I'm playing Construct, and so you don't necessarily need to make this play. You could just banish the you could just banish the App Cologne to summon the that copy of Maximus, then dump Construct, Titanclad, and then be able to go into your Winda still. But if you're not playing Construct, then that's the play that you would have to make. And so I just wanted to show this play, just so you guys know that you always have the option of just popping the Ecclesia to get another monster in the graveyard that you can banish to summon Maximus if you need to. Or also you have the option to play Omega, and then dumping Omega with Maximus is also good as well, because again, it's going to help you set up follow-up plays, or you can use it to disrupt your opponent's graveyard. And so a couple different options here that I just wanted to show off. But in the next combo, I want to show you how it works if we don't have Servant and we don't have a way to get a monster into the graveyard. Alright, so now let's look at this combination. So again, we have just a Thoroughblade, just an Ecclesia, and so we have no way to get any other monster in the graveyard, and we don't have the luxury of Servant dumping App Cologne early. So what do we do in this combination of cards? And spoiler alert, it's going to be very similar obviously, but there are still ways to make this work. And so for this, you would normal summon your Zoo monster, go through the same exact plays, summon your Zoo stuff on top of that, and then special summon the Ecclesia, activate Drident's effect to pop the Ecclesia. Oh, and Ecclesia's effect's obviously going to be searching your copy of Maximus, and then that's going to put your Ecclesia and your extra deck monster into the grave. From here, you can banish your copy of your extra deck monster, summon your Maximus, and then activate Maximus's effect. And then with this, you want to send copies of App Cologne and Titanclad. You would activate your App Cologne's effect to add your copy of Schism, discard another random card in your hand, set your Schism, and then in the end phase, your Schism is, or not in the end phase, but on your opponent's turn, your Schism is going to be live, and then in the end phase, you can once again search your copy of Fleurdelis. And so again, this works even without Nadir's Servant. Okay, so in this final version of the combo, I just want to show you like a worst case scenario if you open Maximus and then any Zoodiac monster that is unable to dump anything else to the graveyard. And so, actually instead of Thoroughblade, let's just start with like a Bunny Blast, like something that does literally nothing on board. This is a worst case scenario, and with this, we're still going to be able to end on a very respectable board. And so what we would do with this is just start by normal summoning our Zoo monster and then exeasing all of our stuff on top of it. So Hammer Kong, Shakanai, Drident, and then from here, like this is the problem, we have nothing in our graveyard. And so how are we going to summon out our Maximus? Well, what we can do is activate Drident's effect and destroy itself. So we can detach one, target itself, destroy itself. Maybe the opponent will even like imperm it or something, and then you make them waste an imperm for nothing. But if not, I don't know why they would do that, but maybe. But regardless, use Drident to destroy itself. That puts stuff in the graveyard, and then you can just banish one of them to summon out your copy of Maximus. Then you would activate Maximus's effect, using that to dump a Titanclad and a App Cologne. So these would go to the graveyard, activate App Cologne's effect, add a copy of Shaddoll Schism, and then you would discard some other random thing in your hand, and then you'd have Maximus Schism. You would proceed to your end phase, where you would use Titanclad's effect, and you would use that to, in this case, special summon your copy of Ecclesia, and then activate Ecclesia's effect to search Fleurdelis. And so now we're still going to have access to Winda because we have the Schism, then we have our App Cologne and Titanclad in the graveyard, and so we're going to be able to get to, let's see, this board on the opponent's turn, which is still very, very respectable. And so we'd have the Winda, Ecclesia, Maximus, and then our Fleurdelis in our hand to follow up with as either disruption or again to follow up on the next turn. And so this is going to be very difficult for a lot of decks to deal with, and still locking your opponent out of the game because of the Winda. And so that means that even in our worst combinations of Dogmatika and Zoodiac, we're still going to be able to play in on very good boards. And now, of course, we do obviously have the option in that hand to just end on Drident Pass. Maybe just have Drident and some hand traps. You definitely have that option. But I would argue that even this is probably better. And so this would be a pretty strong board. And then on your next turn, you'd have the Maximus still on board. You would use that to dump other cards to your graveyard to maybe break their board. You could dump cards like, again, maybe Omega if you want to shuffle things back into your deck, get some recycle plays. Or you could dump like an Intis, again, to destroy cards on your opponent's side of the board. So you have a couple different options here, and pretty much all of it's going to be good. But that's pretty much it for this version of the combo. And I would say that this is actually another benefit of playing a Maximus build, is that you have more cards in your deck that function in combination with your Zoodiac cards to allow you to play. Because if you aren't playing Maximus, then, you know, obviously this play isn't possible. But if you are playing Maximus, that just gives you more cards in your deck that allow you to get to Winda and lock your opponent out of the game. And now if you chose to not play Winda, this board wouldn't nearly be as good because you'd have no way to generate defense off of your Maximus effect. And so again, I think everything kind of works in tandem together to give you a really strong board, because by doing this, you're really turning nothing into something. Instead of ending on Drident Pass, like I mentioned you have the option to before, we're able to end on Floodgate plus Disruption instead. And I would say that's definitely a lot better. And so that's one of the benefits to playing both the Shaddoll engine and Maximus. Obviously, they have their downsides as well, but here are some pretty obvious upside. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for these combos, and I just hope you guys can see how consistent these combos are, because opening any combination of these 3 Dogmatika monsters plus any of your Zoodiac monsters is going to give you a way to play and allow you to end on a pretty strong board of at least having like a Winda and then some other form of disruption, whether it be a copy of Fleurdelis, or you could also use it to get a copy of Punishment or something else. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this combo video, even though it's only like 1 or 2 different combos and 5 or 6 variations on them. This deck can still do a lot of damage. And if you do want to maybe do something different, instead of searching Maximus like we do in half of these plays, you could also just search a copy of Punishment. That's another way you could mix things up. Or if you're not playing Maximus or not playing your Shaddoll engine, searching Punishment is also going to be very, very powerful. And because of, once again, the interaction between Punishment and Megaclops, it's still going to put you in a relatively good position within games, because even though you're locked out of the extra deck, Megaclops can summon from the graveyard. And so I'd say that ending on like Megaclops, Ecclesia, Punishment, Fleurdelis, ending on a board with these cards is also pretty good, and so I'd highly recommend that as well if you don't want to play the Maximus and Shaddoll engines. But all in all, this deck is awesome. If you would like to see the deck, link will be in the YouTube cards up here as well as in the description. And tomorrow I'm going to be uploading some test hands. And so thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions, better plays, anything, let me know in the comment section and I will definitely be getting back to you. And so once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.